So I hope everybody can hear me. Just somebody give me a thumbs up, because if not, hey, wait a second. Everybody put your headsets on. There we go. Now give me the thumbs up. All right, great. Hey, I'm Jack Berkowitz. Really nice to be here today. I run a section of Oracle's footprint, and the section I run is actually the applied side of our machine learning and AI capabilities. So our job is to take all of the things that you see early days and actually deploy it in massive scale. So that means massive number of customers, massive data implementations, right? And when we say massive, we're talking, hundreds of thousands of users, millions of users of the technology. Now today what I'm going to talk about though is how we do that. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of really practical examples about where we're doing that today, and then we'll end with something fun. We're going to talk a little bit about some technology. We're in our quiet period, so safe harbor statement. If you have ever worked in Silicon Valley, you'll know this by heart. So there we go, okay? So here's the thing, right? Big conference, lots of people around, everybody's talking about AI or machine learning or data-driven applications, but where are we today in terms of the adoption? As the host was just saying, I actually used to live here in London. 2002, joined a company, I was the 7th employee, spinning out of University of Manchester for a company here in London called Network Inference, all about taking ontologies and machine learning to build graph things, to build recommendations engines, search, all this other type of stuff. Try to get that funded in 2004 when we needed more capital in London, right? We had to pick up the company and actually move it to the US to even raise money, okay? Today, things are different. So this is a recent study by Ovum, and it's basically telling you about 60 or 70% of companies are now kicking the tires. And in fact, about 15% of the companies are actually moving towards implementation. And so whether that's in decision-making, predictive analytics, natural language processing, chatbots, which everybody knows is exploding, a lot of activity going on, but still a lot of these things are proof of concepts. Even the customer references you see here are a lot of proof of concepts. So what's it going to take for us to actually now take these things to be adopted mainstream? Well, quite frankly, it's not the concerns of technology vendors that make that happen. It's actually the concerns of CEOs. Because when you're talking about spending not $100,000 or $500,000 on a POC, but you're talking about rolling it out and changing an entire company, the CEO's concerns are the ones that actually drive. Not the CHRO, not the sales VP, the CEO, okay? And the top of their list right now is actually about privacy and security. Why? Because you don't want to be the CEO who gets hacked. You don't want to be the CEO whose information goes missing. But we also then see things about customer engagement, hiring and retention that we just heard from the other group, revenue growth, and supplier financial health. Supplier financial health is really an interesting one, right? And you think about that and people are like, well, why does that matter? Well, quite frankly, most companies in the world are really just pass-throughs. There's very little company that actually develops anything unique. And so if your suppliers aren't financially stable, if they're not able to produce product, you have no chance of actually selling product downstream. I was walking around with Charlie, the founder of this thing, and we were walking through the back just a few minutes ago and somebody came up and said, do we have any food left? It's a great example of a supplier, making sure that supplier is viable, okay? And so his concerns, or her concerns as CEO, are all about the security, delivering on the brand promise, and the health of the business. Those are the things that drive decisions to adopt technology. And what that means is about being secure in your customer data. What that means is about having loyal customers. Higher productivity, it's not just in terms of hiring the right people, but how do I get the people in quickly? In the US right now, we're at historic lows in terms of hiring. In West Texas, this is a great example. West Texas is a classically unemployed area, right? I mean, lots of people unemployed, low value. Their unemployment in West Texas in the past month is 2.8%. Structural unemployment, people graduating out of university and things like this, if you ever take an economics class, is 5 to 5.5%. In West Texas, they're below structural unemployment. What that means is they can't hire people to fill the jobs that they need just to even produce what they produce in West Texas. And if you've ever seen a cowboy movie, it's basically dirt, right? That's what they produce. But that's the case, okay? So what do the CEOs need? They need autonomous confidence. They don't need a tool to recommend to them that they need to make security changes, they need a system that keeps up with customer data access and all the security patches that happen. We'll talk a little bit more about that. They need to be able to bring in all the data, not in a BI system, but automatically have it build a reactive system so that they get a data-driven application in real time. That's what drives customer loyalty. That's what drives higher productivity. And they need to be able to exercise financial agility. They can't invest in something that's going to take them, 2 years to implement. They can't do a study, then another study, then a phased rollout and everything else. Right? Our CEO, Mark Hurd, always tells this great story that the average duration of a CEO in a company is 3.5 years. And so some of the projects that you see rolling out, if you have a 2-year project plan, the CEO is not going to be around to actually measure the ROI. So she's not going to be interested in actually doing that, okay? So where do these things come together, and how do humans and machines come together to solve these problems? So let's look at Yamaha. So this is a project that we've been working on with Yamaha for quite a while. They have actually shipped and are continuing to ship a bunch of smart motorcycles, right? So what happens on these motorcycles? Well, they're fully wired up for IoT. Those signals are coming into a bunch of machine learning algorithms on their cloud, looking not at a single motorcycle, but across motorcycles, and in real time, they're pushing recommendations back to Yamaha customers to either come in and get some preventive maintenance, to come in and because something's actually broke, a recall, or better yet, to offer them an upsell offer to come in and get something done. This is happening in real time, and actually, today we're at CogX. Later this week, I'm going to be at AI Summit. We'll actually have some of the motorcycles on the ground you can take a look at. What else do we have? For the maintenance technicians of the Yamaha motorcycles, these things get more and more complex. And so they're using our augmented reality application to actually inspect the motorcycle, and it on demand tells the technician how to fix or change the parts out in real time. So now they can amplify their service base in real time or over the course of a few months and get real-time action in terms of the system. So real application of IoT, real application of machine learning, real application of augmented reality happening today for Yamaha motorcycles. If we take a look now at the University of Adelaide is a university in Australia. One of the biggest problems they had was actually notifying their students about being accepted to the school. So University of Adelaide has implemented and rolled out a series of different chatbots using the Oracle Mobile Cloud Service. What that allows us to do is actually provide chatbots across multiple channels. So it doesn't work just in Yahoo chat, but it doesn't work just in Facebook, but you can do Alexa, you can use any type of chat platform with it because we actually cover the range. Somebody might be on WeChat, somebody might be on Facebook, and it allows people to then interact in the mode that they're normally in, right? So I don't have to go to a different app to interact. I can use what I'm in. If I happen to be in WeChat, great. If I happen to be using Apple, great. What that ended up doing, though, is allowing them to notify their students on the day that they were accepted. And so if you remember, that's actually a huge deal to people. Did I get into school? They can do it in real time. They were able to notify them, and you can see the results right away. 47% less calls, but the most important thing, because these students always have questions, it's not about where did I get in or what did I get in. It's always the people who said, wait a second, I didn't get in, why not? Or where am I going to be living, things like that. Look at the reduction in call time reduced, right? So it didn't handle all the calls, right? It only handled a portion that we can answer the questions for and then forked it to someone. But because they're able to get that efficiency, it amplifies it faster. Great use of how chatbots actually can be used inside of an enterprise. This is a company, I'm not allowed to talk about the company, but it's one of the largest port operators in the world, okay? They move about I think it's 70 million containers through their port every year. They do about $5 billion in revenue. So what they're doing is actually using a combination of technologies, blockchain, our service, as well as our IoT service, as well as machine learning, to do some really, really interesting things. When a container comes into a port, it normally has to be inspected. Why is it being inspected? A couple of different reasons. One, illegal contraband. Two, more important to countries, taxes. So I used to live here in the UK. I know all about Her Majesty's Revenue Service, holding my Amazon packages, right, to make sure that they collect taxes. Well, essentially, that's a hard problem to solve because they don't have people that can inspect 70 million containers or any of these ports, hundreds of millions of containers. So the system automatically recommends to the inspectors what to go look at. And so they're looking at not only having an uplift in their ability to get on top of what it is in terms of either illegal contraband or the revenue, but also even to be able to handle this more efficiently. So what's a real dollar statement out of that? 3% savings just in the transaction cost. And you say, well, wait a second, is that big? Well, let's do the math. They do about $5 billion a year in transaction costs or things. It's about 150 million bucks that they're able to save in terms of cost efficiency. Now, is it just 150 million bucks? No, because if you're doing any cost savings, and then you want to have to finance that with commercial paper, because most companies are borrowing money to be able to produce money, multiply that by 10. So on a 3% gain on a $5 billion operation, you're talking about $1 billion to $1.5 billion in commercial paper and commercial financing savings. These are real big impacts. And the last example I'll give you is a hotel chain. So who's been to Disneyland? All right, who's gotten the smart bracelets? Right? Right? It's great. You can go in, you don't have to do the wait times, you walk by, you wave obnoxiously to everybody else, right? And then you can maybe buy some things. Well, one of the hotel chains we're working with, like the Disney bands, but they wanted to be able to do it themselves without investing the approximate $150 million that Disney did to prototype the system. We're able to do that just using our off-the-shelf platform services. In this case, they were put together to support a band inside the hotel that not only gives them, or the hotel chain, not only gives them the advantage of providing those types of experiences for their guests, but also things like upsell and automatic buying and charging inside the hotel. So in other words, I go up to the bar, I'm happy because the Washington Capitals just won the hockey playoffs. That's a big deal to me, right? And I start buying rounds of beer for everybody, I'll charge on my bracelet, right? So what's the upsell for this company? They've gotten about a 200% ROI on their investment in the first few months, right? That's only going to amplify as they get more and more people together. So their ability to take advantage of technologies wasn't $150 million and a 10-year rollout. It was just a quick implementation, able to then scale that up because all of our services just scale up with use, and then they're able to take advantage of it. So what are these mandates for success? How did these companies make this advantage? Well, the first thing is about the data. Now, Oracle's a massive company, and we're pretty much known as a data company, right? We had this thing called the database. We continue to sell it. But we also now have one of the world's largest brokers of advertising data. We also have massive amounts of data. Oracle has over 400,000 customers. So we have massive amounts of data. Doesn't matter if you get that data from us or you're dealing with it inside of your own systems. Having that right data is the most important thing. If you don't have the data, you can't build systems to be able to do this. And that means handling that data securely. The other thing is that these apps, and you heard a bunch of it, they have to be easy to consume. It can't be that I have to go put on a headset or deal with a robot. I've got to be able to take these applications or these recommendations in the moment or in line with my applications. And that's one of the things that we're working really hard on right now, so that the applications that people just happen to be using get those recommendations in line. A great example is I support HR systems. I also support operational systems like supply chain systems. The worst thing in the world is for me to go use my HR system. Why? I only see it 1 or 2 times a year. If I put those recommendations in line with my supply chain system, I see it every day. Connected, everything needs to be interconnected. Built-in transparency and control, which we've talked about, and built into those existing systems. Now, lots of different lessons learned. Focus on technology. Don't just go for the quick wins. Go ahead and take a look at how these things grow over time. And don't go without understanding what your payback's going to be. And again, your payback is not always the thing in front of you. It may be that working capital like that port company is. Do bring in the right people to get this done. but also design your prototypes and let's get going. Now, I've just got a couple of minutes left, and I want to flip something, make it more fun than talking about business return on investment. Let's talk about return on people. So we're going to talk about Bloodhound. Bloodhound's a system that a lot of people here in the UK know about, but Oracle's deeply involved with, providing technology, enabling the Bloodhound system to get to its end state. So what is Bloodhound? It's a goal to build a 1,000-mile-an-hour car. Now, these guys are insane. I've met the guy in charge of this project. I've met the driver. They're all crazy as hell, right? Because what they're going to do is they're going to go onto a salt flat and they're going to drive a car on the ground 1,000 miles an hour. Now, I can't drive a car more than about 120 miles an hour, but that's what these guys are going to do. So the cool thing about the Bloodhound project is they're going to use all these technologies I've just talked about, but they're actually using it for the greater good. And that greater good, in this case, is about educating people, right? Educating children and students. So they've been able to build this thing so that it's a massive improvement in science and technology education around the world for women, for young girls, for people in developing countries. About 220, I think it says 220 countries. I know this, there's 210 countries, okay, so I don't know where this came from. But 210 countries around the world having access to this type of data and these types of educational resources. So you're going to see a really cool thing in a second. We're going to show you a video of Bloodhound running. You're going to see great technology of use, but understand in this case, it's crossing the chasm for education, not just for business. Okay, so let me step off the stage. Let's see Bloodhound in action. So thank you very much. They're going to race that car they're going to run that car in the fall of 2019. Hopefully all that technology works. That'll be a real big crossing the chasm moment. We'll be going downstairs if anyone wants to talk about those use cases after this. And then, like I said, we're going to be at the AI Summit. And if you want to come and play with a motorcycle, be happy to see you there. Thanks so much.